Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka the Terrible Australian of Supermarsy.com, and welcome to the 17th and final edition of my MIFF 2015 video reviews. For this very final edition, I will be reviewing the second and third volumes of Miguel Gomes' Arabian Nights trilogy, Arabian Nights Volume 2, The Desolate One, and Arabian Nights Volume 3, The Enchanted One. So let's get right into it. Scheherazada's enchanting tales of modern Portugal continue. An elderly criminal becomes a folk hero as he successfully evades hordes of police. A stern judge oversees a case involving 13 stolen cows, mail-order brides, a genie, and a machete-wielding human lie detector, and a Maltese poodle shuffles between households in a recession-stricken estate, observing the people as she goes. The second part of Miguel Gomes' doco-fiction trilogy continues to explore modern Portugal from varied and unexpected angles. This middle chapter picked up the coveted Palm Dog Award at Cannes Film Festival for the Maltese Poodle, Lucky's performance as Dixie. Now, if you watched the previous episode of my MIFF video reviews, I kind of talked about how I was kind of a bit underwhelmed with the very first chapter. I felt, even though there was a lot of great stuff in it, unfortunately I had found it sort of to be kind of, at times, to be a bit dull and kind of sluggish in parts. And I didn't think some of the stories were all that engaging, but that is a complete polar opposite with this second chapter. I thought this was a vast improvement with this one. Like, it still has some of the flaws that that did sort of plague the first chapter, but luckily I thought the stories in this one I found to be much more interesting, and I thought the first story with the homeless guy, the elderly criminal, I thought that was a pretty solid story. There's some aspects I was kind of a bit puzzled by, and the the message of what that story was kind of telling didn't really hit me until probably after I saw this film, and because at first I was a bit puzzled at first, but the more I thought about it, I sort of understood what this one was going for, and I really liked the second story, the court case one. That one starts up really bizarre as well, and you'll know what I mean when you see it. But what I thought this segment, like, the thing about this trilogy, like, even though they sort of deal with very sort of political things, there's also laughs in this trilogy as well. Particularly, this to me is one of the funniest segments in the trilogy, and it kind of starts off pretty normally, but as the story goes on, it becomes more insane and hilarious. It does feel like sort of a sketch for sort of a comedy show, like an extended sketch, and you can sort of feel the length of this one as it goes on. Like, it does go on a little bit longer than necessary, but I did really like this one. But I have to say, the third and final story in this second chapter, the one with the dog, that is definitely my favorite story of all the ones that are featured in this trilogy. I thought this one was really compelling, also surprisingly touching as well, and sad, and that one sort of gave more of sort of what the country of Portugal, sort of the themes that Miguel Gomes was going for with this film in regards to what Portugal was going through at the time he was making this film. And I just found this segment to be really well done. And it was just so beautiful, like beautifully written, and once again, the film looks spectacular. It's very well directed by Miguel Gomes, and I like the sort of switching of the tones and styles of filmmaking that he goes for each of these segments. Like, each one in a way feels very different from the other, but at the same time it feels thematically in sync with each other, which I really liked. And yeah, I thought this segment was pretty good, and I thought, like I said, it was an improvement over the first one. And yeah, I just really liked this one, and also, but to me, it was really that third segment with the dog Dixie, which was to me the the best one and the most fully realized one, both from a writing, directing, performance, and subtext, was the one that sort of worked for me the most. But the previous two ones were pretty good as well. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty solid film on its own, and were definitely, like I said, an improvement over the first one. Like I said, it does have its sort of flaws as well. Like I said, some of the sort of like stories do go on a little bit longer than they needed to be, and it does have a bit of pacing issues. But they didn't bother me as much here than they did in the first one. So yeah, I thought this one's a pretty solid one as well. Like, it's not perfect, but it was a pretty solid one overall. So if I had to give Arabian Nights Volume 2 the Desolate One rating, I'd give it a 3.5 stars. I think it's definitely a very solid film. Now moving on to the third and final chapter of the Arabian Nights trilogy, Arabian Nights Volume 3, The Enchanted One. The Amatic narrator of the trilogy finally takes center stage. Scheherazade, the daughter of the Grand Vizier, weaves tales to please the king and stay her own execution. Realizing she will soon run out of stories to tell, she hatches a plan to escape the palace. Meanwhile, finch hunters offer a musical analogy for Portugal's 21st century woes. The final installment of Miguel Gomes' epic trilogy blends fantasy and reality indistinguishably. Sorry if I pronounced that word wrong. Bringing to a close his multifaceted critique on modern-day Portugal through the lens of the most evocative of all fairy tales. Now, like I said, I wasn't much of a fan of the first volume, The Restless One. I did like the second volume, The Desolate One. But unfortunately, I found this is Volume 3, The Enchanted One, is definitely my least favourite installment of the Arabian Nights trilogy. And the reason for that is, which I'll get to shortly. First up, I should say, it started off really well, and when you kind of introduced to this one story that actually has our main character, Scheherazade. She did appear in a small segment in Volume 1, but this is like, she gets her own sort of big major story in this one. And I thought this short, after the Dixie story from the second one, this is definitely my favorite story, second favorite story as a whole. This one, I think, what I really like this one, it kind of blends the whole fantasy and reality aspects of the film extremely well. And I mean, it has that sort of fairy tale quality, because you got all the characters in the film that are all kind of based on, you know, characters from fairy tales and whatnot, and they're sort of dressed up in sort of like the kind of sort of clothes that you would, as the characters did in Arabian Nights. But at the same time, though, the characters are in modern settings. Like, there's a wonderful scene where Scheherazade and her father are talking, and they're talking on this really big Ferris wheel, and it's just this segment kind of perfectly captures the whimsy and the sort of fable quality of what the film is going for, and as well as sort of that political undercurrent as well. And also the actress who plays Scheherazade, I thought, did a wonderful job. And it's also a really funny segment as well. And I really enjoyed this one. But then once it gets to the big segment in this one, and I think this is probably the longest one of all of them in this trilogy, it kind of deals... It's kind of in a I think this might actually be a documentary, because I wasn't sure if it was real or just fake at first, but I think this might have been an actual documentary. It's about finch hunters and bird trappers, and them sort of like training their birds to sing and put them in competitions and all that. Unfortunately, I just found this, like I said, I get what this part of the story was going for, because it ties in with the sort of political climate of what Portugal was going in at that time. But unfortunately, I just found this entire segment so painfully and so painfully boring that I just did not care about anything that was happening in this segment. I didn't find any of the people that were sort of the subject of this story interesting or engaging. If anything, it just showed that, you know, bird trappers don't make interesting subjects for a film. I just found this segment just so excruciating. So I such a chore to sit through that I was just bored out of my mind. Like I said, I get what what Miguel Gomes was going for with this segment, but unfortunately it just did not work for me at all, and it just so dreadfully dull, and I just couldn't wait for it to just to finish. And this one segment it encapsulates all the problems that I've had with this trilogy. What I sort of sometimes the films can be a bit dull. This one is probably the most dullest segment, and it's just so sluggish and poorly paced, and it's just wasn't good at all. This segment just did not work. It did not, and I really hated it. So mainly for the fact that it was just so dull. This one segment really left a bad taste in my mouth when it came to this trilogy. It kind of, sort of, I thought during the course of the second film and also the first half of this one, I thought the series was actually getting better, and the problems were getting very small. But unfortunately, this final installment sort of just brought that all back up again. This final story. And it just completely ruined the film for me, which is a shame because it just didn't need to do that. So if I had to give this installment a rating, I give Volume 3, The Enchanted One, 2 stars. I really hated the big story in this one, the Finch Hunt, the bird trappers story. That really ruined it for me. And like I said, I get what it's going for, but it just didn't work. But if you're wondering what did I give the overall series, like all three as one whole film, I probably give it 2.5. And I feel bad about giving it a rating that low, but like I said, I appreciate the originality and the boldness and the ambition of this series, and I love it when films are so ambitious that they go for broke. And that's one of the things I admire about this film, but it just has too many flaws that just stood out for me, and unfortunately the film just didn't work for me at all. But that's not to say it might not work for other people. I know there's a lot of people out there, both critics and film fans, that have really liked this trilogy of films, and even though it didn't work for me, it might work for you out there who are watching this video. So I'd say it is even though I didn't care for it overall, I still say it's worth a watch. I mean, especially for film fans, and then that way you can kind of make up your own mind whether this trilogy was good or not. So that's the end of this final edition of my MIFF video reviews. I want to thank everybody for watching all the videos so far in this trilogy. I had a great time making them, and I had a great time over MIFF, and I can't believe the festival's now over. So, but I look forward to next year where I'll be doing these MIFF videos again. So keep a lookout for that next year. But also check out all my other video reviews and whatnot. I got a few of them coming up shortly, and also go to supermastery.com if you'd like to check out more of my stuff there. And I've got a couple of written reviews that are coming out very soon, as well as some articles, and as well as check out the podcast I co-host as well. So once again, thank you all for watching these MIFF video reviews, and I'll see you guys later. See you everyone. Bye.